over the last few weeks, this Landy has been on a big transformation.
I started with the daunting task of removing the door, roof and the side panels. But it turns out a Land Rover is just like a big Lego kit, so it is actually pretty easy. I installed a new interior from the guys at Exmoor Trim before cracking on with the bodywork, sanding, filling, priming and ultimately painting this car on my driveway. After that, I installed a heavy duty bar set from the guys at Exmoor Trim and a canvas to really finish the look off.
And today we're going to continue that transformation and we're going to focus on some of the details which are really going to bring this build to life. I've got some Exmoor Trim billet door hinges that I want to fit up, but before we jump into that, I've got some other smaller modifications which are really going to elevate the look of this truck. So let's take a look at those. The first thing we're going to do is take a look at these headlight surrounds. As stock, they are just black plastic and I want to tie it in with the rest of the build, have a more heritage look, so I'm going to look at painting these up. It's probably going to be a temporary measure for now, as I'm going to look to fit some classic light surrounds as I have done on my other 110 build. But for now, I think painting them up will just tie in with the rest of the build, give it a nice look. I've got some of the paint left over from painting the rear bed, so I think it's going to really tie in the car and tie in this final look with the ORE headlights, with the clear lenses. I think it's just going to look really sharp.
Getting these painted up was super easy. I first sanded them back, then primed, and then finally painted them to get that really nice glossy finish to match the rest of the body of the car. Once dry, I could then get them mounted back up onto the car, connecting the lights up first, and then screwing the lights through the surrounds into the body to secure it all in place.
So now that the headlight surrounds are all mounted up and looking great, we've got a final few things that we're going to fit up to add kind of that final level of polish to the build. The first of these stainless steel finishes, these go on the threshold, the door sills themselves, and they just give a much more kind of finished look when you enter the car, a much more kind of crafted interior, and it covers up some of the slightly corroded metalwork that you often see on the inside of Defenders.
Inside is where you can see the finishers will go. These 5 or 6 bolts. We'll remove those and we'll fit up the finishers. It will cover this unsightly metalwork here and just give a final kind of finished look when you enter the car. I'm really excited to get those fitted up. Still got those side sills that are a bit scratched. These always get scratched on Defenders, so hopefully I'll look at either removing those and painting them up, or we'll fit a full new set depending on kind of budgets and also whether some of this dent work's repairable. These finishers are a real quick and easy way to freshen up the interior of your car. The first thing I did was lubricate the old bolts. These are sometimes a bit of a headache to remove, and in most cases I ended up actually just snapping the bolt when I tried to unscrew them. After the old bolts were removed, I can then slot the new finisher into place over the top of the holes and then mount them up using the bolts in the fixing kit. Thankfully these are all stainless, so hopefully I'm not going to have the headache if I ever want to remove these.
But the main event and the thing that I'm really excited to be installing in today's video are these billet hinges from the guys at Exmoor Trim. So we'll open the box and have a little look at the goodies inside. I've already had a little bit of a sneak peek, I'm really excited for these. So we have the billet hinges. I've gone for the colour gunmetal. I think it's really going to contrast the blue, and some of the other accents that I'm going to be picking out on the car are also gunmetal. So I thought this was a really nice option to go for. You can see that these are billet, they're not going to rust and corrode like the standard door hinges do. I'll show you in a second on Project Blue just how wobbly some of the door pins are, which is why I'm swapping these out, not only for the aesthetic look, but yeah, how good do they look as a piece of engineering. I'm excited to get these installed onto Blue. In the kit we've also got all the secure fixings and fastenings all coated in black, so they're not going to stand out too much, which I really like, and all of the gaskets as well to fit the hinges up, so we're not going to get any of the hinges rubbing and corroded on the body of the car. So let's get these mounted up and have a look at the final finish. So taking a look at the existing door hinges, you can see that these have definitely seen better days. Not only are the fixings totally corroded, but I don't know whether I can demonstrate, the doors are actually rattling on the pins. There's too much movement, which means that the doors don't close very well, and they're obviously not very secure. So these are the hinges that we're going to be swapping out, both the rear and the tops too. And again, at the top you can see all the hinges are all corroded, all the fixings, so I'm looking forward to getting these swapped out with a fresh set.
So it should be pretty easy to mount up these new hinges. I've just taken this bit of the hinge off just to show you what we're looking at. So the hinge itself, underneath this side of the hinge, mounted to the body of the car, you should have some captive nuts. These slot into place, and in the kit we've got a new set of those to freshen those up. So I've just removed the bolts out of here. I lubed them up with a lot of WD-40 so they come out nice and easy, and left it overnight with a bit of penetrating oil. So these are now slipped out, and then yeah, we've got these captive nuts that we can replace. And then I'll just walk around inside just to show you how we undo this side of the hinge too, but again, it's super easy. Coming around to the inside, you can see where the hinges mount up. It's really easy. There's just 2 bolts that come through the door and these nuts. We just get a spanner on the end of those, and then we go around and we can undo the bolt from the outside, holding the spanner in place, and then that will loosen that off and we can remove the hinge completely.
So I've got my spanner on the nut on the inside, and now I can just undo the bolt from this side, loosen it off. I'll just do the same with the top bolt too. It's maybe easier if you've got a second pair of hands. You can get one person to make sure the spanner's held onto that nut, but it's still pretty easy as a one-man job. So there you go, that's the old hinge removed. I now might have a look at replacing these old screw fixings if they're really corroded. If they're not too bad, they look like they're in place, I might just leave them. With the old hinge out the way, I took the opportunity to clean behind the hinge. It looks like Land Rover chose not to paint behind the hinges too. Right, so I've got this hinge ready to mount up. I've got the bolts through, all of the washers and the plastic gasket, and I can then just push it into the captive nuts and tighten it in place. The other thing just to note is I find it easier to do it with the door closed. That just means that you've got everything kind of where it needs to sit when it's finally nipped up, and you're not going to get any movement or wiggle room in the door, which I think just makes it slightly easier. So we'll get this up and into place. Gasket again, bolt through, and you can then wiggle the door and get the bolts to line up. Right, so now it's the reverse of taking it off, holding the spanner on and tightening it up. Onto the top hinge now, and it basically follows the same process as the bottom hinge. The only difference here being that we're going to also mount up the wing mirror. The retaining captive nuts were totally rusted out, but thankfully in the kit we've got a fresh set to be able to mount up. I prized the old ones off and then tapped the new ones back into place, ready to mount up the new hinge. Get the hinge mounted up, make sure we've got the one that's got the 2 holes in it for the top so that we can fit the wing mirror through. And as we did with the bottom ones, just get them lined up and we'll nip them up. Right, so next task is to remove the wing mirror arm from the old hinge. It's just got 2 posi drive screws in the back, which we can undo. These are sometimes really corroded, like these ones are, but hopefully they'll come out with a bit of persuasion. And then we can get the mirror arm mounted up to the new hinge. But there we go. We got them out. I was worried that they'd corroded too much, but they have come out, which is good. And then in the kit, we've got some fresh, nice stainless bolts, which we'll be able to mount to the new hinges with. Old crusty mirror arms on fresh hinges, but I will swap them out as soon as I can. They're only like 15 quid, so well worth doing. So that's the hinges all fitted up. The door closes. There's probably a little bit of fettling to do to get the positions just right, to make sure that the door's not crashing with the top of this drain channel. There's a little bit of configuring that I need to do, but in general I'm really happy with, first of all, how they look. They look amazing. I'm loving the gunmetal kind of accents across the car, but once they're fettled and tightened up, I'll go round to the other side and fit the hinges up on that side too, and then yeah, then we're job done. I got the driver's side hinges mounted up too. In total, this job only took around half an hour and it's totally refreshed all of the hinges. The doors close are much better, and of course they look so good with those little silver details. So that's the driver's side all mounted up to. How good do those hinges look? I think they make it a little bit more ownable. I'm really liking the silver and the metal accents that I'm going around the body. There's other things obviously that I can change, like the side vents, wing top vents, etc. But I'm so happy with how they're looking. The other thing I've done is fettled with the hinge height themselves and also the striker and the latch, which means that the doors open and close a lot better than they normally do. A lot better for a Defender anyway. So I can open them and then just slowly close it and it shuts. So really happy with the fit, with how they're looking. I'm really happy with the final results. So there you have it guys, another episode fine-tuning Project Blue, adding the headlight surrounds, the stainless steel finishes on the doors, but of course the main event, the Exmoor Trim hinges, which I'm really happy with how they've come out. All of the silver accents coming around the car, really finishing them off and adding those final level of details. As always, if you've enjoyed this video, please drop a like, subscribe for plenty more videos on Blue and also scout my Project 110, and I'll see you in the next video.